Okay, give you an update on the solar panels. They are not fully installed, but from this smiling face you can see I've kicked off with a company called Eon. So, just to give you an update on where we are at the moment. So, the solar panels have been installed, the inverter's been installed, it's actually running. Obviously, it's all been registered. There's an app that I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds. So, I'll take you through it as best as I can, so bear with me. So, let's flip it around. So, this is the app that is currently being used for the solar panels. You'll see right at the top there, that's the solar panels that are being used at the moment, and I'm currently generating 705 watts. You can see in the middle, that is the inverter, and then what that's doing is from the inverter, it's splitting it. So it's going to the charging the batteries up, and then also it's how much I'm actually using. So what's the important bit is the bit that's at the bottom. So the bit that's at the bottom says that I'm using 591 watts. So if you look, you've got 507 watts that's coming in, and I'm using 591. I'm actually sending, according to this, 37 watts. So I'll just clear that. I'm sending 37 watts back to the grid. So in theory, I'm not using any electric, okay? Now bearing in mind, I have got 4 pumps running. I've got quite a lot of stuff floating around, so I'm using in excess of probably 900 watts of stuff before the solar panels have been fitted. Now, the important bit is what I'm going to show you now, because a lot of people have had smart meters fitted and they trust them. Right now, I don't, and I'll show you why. Now, bearing in mind, I'm using nothing from the grid, but according to the smart meter, I'm actually using 189 watts. Now, 15 minutes ago, that was 412 watts. Now, question you have to ask yourself, and I've just contacted Eon now. I am in the process of kicking off with them. I've got the engineers that are coming out. I've got the engineers coming out on Tuesday, okay? For the simple reason is, according to them, I'm using power that I'm not. So, if you think about it realistically, especially in this current climate, you'll have to excuse this because it's blown me, okay? But this is just me being me, and I'm sorry about this, okay? So at the moment, I'm probably using 15 pence an hour in electric that I'm not using, okay? So if you times that by 24, and then times it by 365, the smart meter sort of isn't that smart. So what I've done, I've slagged Aeon off on Trustpilot, and I've told them, and I've proved it with all the photos in my usual mad dog way. And I've got them coming out Tuesday morning at 2 o'clock. So wait for the update. So in my quest to take on the energy companies, I'm just going to show you where we are currently. Is 12 minutes past 3, so just after midday. I'll just zoom in on this so they can see it. So the solar panels are producing 1456 watts, and as normal, goes into the inverter, it splits, it's charging the battery up, and then it's using whatever I'm using in the house, which is currently 486 watts. The battery is 99% charged, and the 649 watts going in there. The important bit we want to look now is what's going back to the grid. So I'm actually sending back to the grid 270 watts. So I'm going to literally walk straight back into the front room, and then we're going to go straight to the smart meter to see what the smart meter is saying. Now, 271. Now it's saying I'm sending 454 watts to the grid. So, which one's right and which one's wrong? tune into the next one, folks. Well, good morning. Just to take you through some bits and pieces. So I've got Eon coming in the next couple of hours, I would have said. It's going to be between 8 and 12 o'clock to come and have a look at the smart meter that I've told them I'm not really happy about. I'm just going to turn you around and I'm going to show you why I'm not happy, because this is really going to surprise you, okay? But I need you to understand that these are just preliminary figures, but the figures that are set should speak for themselves. So just bear in for a couple of seconds. So that's a spreadsheet for the last, well, since June last year. And as you can see, it's pretty consistent. So if you look at column A, that tells you what the date was. Column B tells you what I've used per day. Column C is what the meter reading was. And column D is what I used for the total month. So you can see that if you look at the 31st of the 8th, it was saying 760. And the 30th of the 9th, it was saying 850. So I know for a fact that I had a big spike on that because I actually put a heater on one of the ponds to test it, and you can see that I had a massive spike. Apart from that, give or take 50 watts, you can see that it's pretty consistent, or it was, until you look down here. Now bearing in mind the solar panels was installed on the 20th. I'll show you that in a second. So the smart meters was installed on the 11th of the 4th. Okay, so that was saying that. So I took the original reading from the original meter before they ripped it out, and that calculation was that minus that gave me that. The new smart meter was installed, so for literally 19 days, I used 347 kilowatts. Okay, so that gave me a total usage for 19 days of 18.8 kilowatts per day. Now, we're only 24 days in, and the solar panels were activated on the 20th. All of a sudden, I'm now using 24.1 kilowatts a day. And that is what I've used so far, which is, shall we say, sorry, that's what I've used so far, which is a little bit crazy. Now, just bear with me a sec. I'm just going to throw a few calculations now into the melting pot. So just bear with me a sec. Hopefully you can see everything that's going on. So I'm going to go to the calculator. And as you can see, there's a calculator out there now, right? So I'm using an additional 4 kilowatts, which is 4,000 for the benefit of this. Okay? If you divide that by 24, this will tell me how many additional watts per hour I'm using. That's 166 watts that it says I'm using additional per hour. Now, if you remember a couple of days ago, I showed you on my smart meter that there was an excess usage. So, watch this space. Right, so I've got the engineer now. He's looking at the smart meter data. I'm going to give them the chance to do that. But in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to show you where we are at the moment. So he's currently recalibrating the smart meter. So share again the screen so you can see what's going on. I'll explain it to you again in layman's, or try and explain it in layman's terms. So solar panels are generating 2,340 watts, or better known as 2.3 kilowatts. Now bearing in mind it's coming up to 5 to 9. So the 2.34 is going into the inverter, which is located in the centre. That's then being split between the batteries and the house. So in between that you can see that the batteries are taking 1,760 watts, which is 81. The bungalow is using 624 watts. Now, as you can see, the grid, the difference between these two is what the grid should be taking. I've calibrated it at, I'm using 24 watts from the grid. That's saying 39. So, bearing in mind they're recalibrating the smart meter now of where we were. So as you can see, I'm walking through, so it is in real time. And you can see isn't that strange? Isn't that strange? So, and that is about right. So just bear with me a sec. If I can get to speak to him on camera, great. If I can't, I think that speaks for itself. We'll leave it at that. Right, so I've got the engineer here, and fair play to him, he says he doesn't want to be on YouTube, which is fine, I ain't got a problem with that. But he is definitely saying that there is definitely a discrepancy on the smart meter. So, you're going to go and check the smart meter? Yeah, so he's going over there to recheck the smart meter, and I'll give you an update in a couple of minutes. Just to put this into realistic context and taking into account solar panels have been installed. According to the meter, I'm using around £45 a week. And even the engineer's laughing now. £45 a week in electric. We'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, so we've definitely established that there's definitely a problem with the smart meter. And just to show it in realistic terms, I'm going to show you. Now, bearing in mind, the solar panels are generating power. The way that the smart meter works, from what I've just been explained to, is there's a red flashing light. Works the same as a normal conventional meter. So as the meter turns around and clicks to its point, it logs on. So in theory, the smart meter should not actually be flashing in any shape or form. Is that correct, yeah?
Yep.
So we're just going to quick... And as you can see, that is flashing. Now, in theory, with the amount that I'm generating at the moment, I'm generating 2.6 kilowatts. The battery's full, and I'm using 415 watts. I'm actually sending, did I say 2,002?
About 2 kilowatt.
Yeah, I'm sending 2 kilowatts back to the grid that they're getting for free. So that should not even be flashing. So, we know there's a problem, so bear with. Okay, as you can see, we're back in the loft now. So I've got Eon outside, and what we're doing now is we've just turned off the solar array completely. They're now changing the smart meter just to test it. They've got to keep my smart meter for the simple reason is they have a tendency for disappearing when it comes to an investigation. So I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to keep the solar, I'm going to keep the smart meter here for now. I am being told that for me to have everything tested, I'm going to be looking at 70 quid, so that will put people off. I've turned it off.
Do you need to do anything with your pumps?
Yeah, the pump's going to be off. Hang on 2 seconds, I'll come back to you. So yeah, so as you can see, all the power's off now, so just bear me a couple of seconds. So now all the power's off, including the solar panels. We've come back to the smart meter. This is just so obviously the engineers explain it to me, so I'm going to explain it to you as best as I can. So when there is no power being used at all, the light stays on solid, which means there is nothing being generated in any shape or form. So we have now confirmed, definitely confirmed it.
Yeah.
We've definitely confirmed that there is definitely an issue with this smart meter. So we'll get back to you in a couple. Right. So what we're just doing now is just going through everything. He's going to actually change the meter, but what's going to happen is we're going to retain this meter as evidence further down the line. Now, bearing in mind that when the investigation takes place, it costs the customer, me, £70 to do it.
Used to, I don't know if it still does.
Say again.
Say used to, I don't know if it still does.
Oh, it used to be £70. It's probably gone up a bit since everything's gone up. So, would you say from a logical point of view it's to, shall we say, put people off?
No, it's just to pay for the engineer to go out, really.
Right, so that's to pay for the engineer to get it to come out and do it. Now, obviously, £70 to some people, or a lot of people, is quite a lot of money. So basically what we're doing now is he's going to take off the current smart meter. Obviously that one will be going back on. He's going to fit an analog meter back to it. Is that correct?
Well, no, it'll have to be a digital. We don't use analogs, but it'll be a digital one. It's got the same stuff, same.
Yeah,
line.
so basically it will be one of the R1s. It'll be just to confirm whether it works. We'll then put all the solar panels and everything back on. In theory, it should be a solid red light, which then says potentially the smart meter that's here might be faulty. Get back to you in a couple of seconds. Right, so what we're doing now is, or I'll rephrase that, what the engineer's doing now is putting in a backup test meter. So we've taken the old smart meter off at the moment. Everything all's been rechecked and re-switched back on, and then we're going to see if we've got that solid light. So we'll go from standard electric, then we'll turn the solar on, then the light should say solid. If that's the case, we've then proved that there's an issue with the smart meter. Now, what I've suggested is, and obviously for me, smart meter's only been installed for 41 days. So the calculation will work out, give or take a little bit, about 17 quid. So I am more than prepared to take that £17 on the chin. And I'm going to get them to just swap the smart meter to put another smart meter on. Is that okay? So as you can see, we have got a solid light. So what we're going to do is if we turn on the main meter now, so that solid light now shows that there is no power going on at the moment. So we're going to switch on the main circuit board, or the engineer's going to switch on the main circuit board. As soon as that goes on, this should flash stupidly, which then says that there's power being consumed. I'm then going to go upstairs, switch on the solar panels. So as you can see now, power's just been activated, and now you can see that that is flashing. It's not flashing very quick, but it is flashing. So what'll happen now is I'm going to go upstairs, I'm going to turn the solar panels on. In theory what should happen then is that light should go absolutely solid. So I'll get back to you in a couple of seconds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the solar panels back on, which is that's firing up now. So I'll give that a couple of seconds to fire up. So that's starting to fire up now, as we can see. Okay, so the solar panels have just been fired back up, and as you can see, we have a solid light, which means it's doing exactly what it says on the tin. So actually it's generating back now to...
It's saying RED yet?
Yeah, it's showing solid red.
Is it saying RED on the screen?
No, it doesn't.
It'll take a few minutes, it has to register with the meter. After a while, it'll start saying RED, it'll start flashing between the meter reading and saying RED. We can take 5-10 minutes, that can.
Oh, can he? Yeah. Okay, what I'll do for the benefit of this then is we'll hold on for that. So, as you can see now, that's solid, and it'll flip over in a minute to RED saying reverse electrical detected. So that means it's going back to the grid. So that's what it should be doing, or that's what it should have done. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask the engineer now to put back in a brand new smart meter. I'm going to set the £17 on the chin for me, because to be honest with you, I've already proved what I needed to prove on this. So I'm just going to get him to fit a new smart meter, and then we'll retest that one to make sure it works. But what I would encourage everybody to do, don't trust these smart meters yet. Just check them, question it, re-question it. I would say the best way for you to do it is go to your smart meter. It's battery operated. So if you go to your main fuse board and trip off the master switch, and then go to the smart meter and see if it's generating anything. If it says it's generating something and you ain't, then you can question it. But understand that when you do question it, potentially for it to be investigated will cost you 70 quid. So for the benefit of this, I'm going to have the smart meter changed. It's going to be changed now. And we'll do all the bits and pieces, and I'll get back to you in a bit. So that's what the smart meter is generating at the moment. So we're going to turn the power back off now on this. He's going to put a new meter on, and then we'll take it from there. Right, so the smart meter has just been changed. As you can see, all the wiring's been changed as well to what it originally was. And obviously it's going to show 0 on there, as you can see. So obviously what we're going to do now is all this is going to come online. It's all going to be set up. It shouldn't be that far away now. And this now is a case of just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and seeing what happens. So I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes. So we fitted a new smart meter. Obviously that one tested as having an issue as well. So what we've both decided to do now is go back to the analog until we've got it all finally sorted out. So basically the way the smart meter is working is actually saying that I've only generated 10 watts of power, but I've used 700.
74.3, it says your export net.
Yeah, so it's saying I've used 74 kilowatts of power that I ain't used. So the easiest way to do it now is to go back to the analog. So that bad boy is being fitted back on, and then we're going to go back to that way, and we're going to go back. So we're going to leave it at that, I think, for the time being. So I hope you found this interesting. And I hope it's gave you a bit of a insight into the electricity game. So now I would not have known this, and I would not have questioned it unless I had the solar panels fitted and knowing full well that they were generating. That's why I've challenged it. I mean, the engineer, you've been here what, best part of 3 hours, haven't you? It's got to be easy.
9 o'clock, don't I?
Yeah.
2 hours, very 9, so it's 2 hours.
So he's been here a few hours and he's done all the diagnostics that he can possibly do. And we both agreed that we're going back to basics. So again, hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has been interesting. I hope it's gave you a bit of an insight, and I hope it's planted the seed.
It seems that the meter's registering your generation, but it's not registering the units as generated, is it? So
yeah, it's something definitely weird. So like I said, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's planted that seed. So we'll get back to the pond side of it in the not too distant future. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. So this is where we are at the moment. So changed the meter around, restarted back up the solar panels, and then obviously they'll be doing some testing. Give everybody the heads up. Originally, when everything went pear-shaped with the electric, Eon was offering a fixed rate. The fixed rate was, but it was very insistent that you had to have a smart meter fitted. So now I'm having the smart meter taken out, and I'm going back to an analog one. So in theory, I'm in breach of contract. So Eon, if you're watching this, bring it on.